Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gird Your Loins. My name's Brett Lynn, and as you can see today, I'm by myself. I don't have a guest today, and it's going to be kind of a short show. Kind of want to tell a story. When I was a kid, probably like around sixth grade, something like that, I was really into basketball, which is kind of preposterous because I was like the shortest kid in my class, but I still wanted to play really badly. I would go out and I would practice layups all the time and practice my dribbling. Like Michael Jordan was the coolest thing in the world back then, back in the late 80s, early 90s. So, but just saying all that to lead into the fact that I would go to high school basketball games all the time. I love the high school basketball team, and I remember there was one guy on the Ben Salem basketball team who was really talented. He was a really talented guy, and I remember they went pretty far in like the state competition or whatever it was that they were doing, and uh, and to my estimation, was like the best player on the team. That wasn't like a very widely held opinion, though. There were definitely people that thought he was a very talented player, but the one thing that I really liked about him is that no matter how good he did at something, he would score and then he would just give the ball to the ref, and he wouldn't make a big deal about it or anything. And there was another guy on the team who I didn't really see him as like this amazing talent like the other guy, but he would make such a scene about everything. He would flip out when calls didn't go his way, or anytime he would score a basket, he would just be elated. He would celebrate all over the place. And I think the first guy's name was Chris Smith. I might be wrong, but because it was quite some time ago. But I just remembered how mature he looked when he would do like an amazing play. He would break somebody's ankles and like get to the basket and score, and then everybody would be going crazy, but it was like it didn't phase him at all. It was like, well, I'm supposed to be here. Like, this is what's supposed to happen. Like, I'm so good at this. Some people may think that that's cocky, but I looked at it like, man, this guy just has control of himself, like total control of himself. And so, what I wanted to talk about, because what this podcast is really about, is for the uh, the edification of young men. If you guys are preparing, you might be like a young adult, you might be in your 20s, and you're preparing to um, really be a man. It's strange to think. You think when you're 18 years old that you're a man, but I know for myself, it's like this has been like a process of learning to be a man, because in our culture, like, we don't really expect manly, mature things out of anybody, even in your 20s, right? Which is why, for a lot of guys, they really find themselves, when they join the military, they really get mature. They really get like brought into reality in a sense of like what life's really about. But I wanted to talk about this idea of emotions, and for the most part, men are usually viewed in the sexes as being the more emotionless ones. But as guys, we know that that's not true. Like, we definitely feel things, right? We watch Rudy, we shed a tear. We watch Saving Private Ryan. We feel our hearts swell with pride. We watch the guys getting killed, and it's things like that tend to get us going. But what I want to talk about is the control of our emotions, and why that's so important as a man. Now, the world has this impression of men that might be very different from what the Bible depicts as admirable qualities for a man of God. Now, or what even would traditionally and classically be considered masculine traits. So you might see some fellow who's like really scoring with the ladies and like maybe a ladies man, and he seems to get dates constantly. Maybe he brags about the amount of women that he's slept with, or and everybody, especially people that are my age, we all know this guy. Like we all know people like this that just never grew up, right? And unfortunately, like in high school settings and even college, it seems like those guys tend to get portrayed as like the most masculine people, right? And for a lot of guys not having good masculine role models, we see like the success that they might have with women, or we might see their bravado. They might even succeed in school, or they might succeed in business, or whatever it is that they're doing. But but they're really kind of chasing after their own passions, and they're a slave to their passions. Guys that are chasing after women constantly, or like they're only thinking about that, um, they're really just, we talk about like, use your big head, not your little head. But that's a fact. And a boy doesn't know how to control the passions that are in him. And we don't usually, we might discipline men, we might discipline young men, and there might be consequences for our actions. There might be consequences for outbursts of anger, bad decisions, things like that. But we don't usually spend a lot of time explaining to young men why it is that they need to control their passions and control their emotions. Now, an interesting thing, I like to use different analogies, maybe sports references, things like that. There's two things that I'm pretty passionate about doing, although my jujitsu friends might say otherwise because I haven't been there in like a month. But I love jujitsu, and right now I started bowling a few years ago, and I've really taken to that. I really like bowling a lot. For my father, he always wanted me to play golf. He was a big golfer, and golf's very popular right now. But if you think about those two sports, they're very different in the way you need to go about doing them. Now, jujitsu is definitely very cerebral, like thinking man's martial art. It's also very physical, right? It's not just a chess match. There's a lot of things going on in jujitsu that require a lot of physicality. And one of the things I had to learn early on, not having grown up like a very steady, stellar athlete or anything, I wasn't a very big guy or anything like that, and I didn't have a lot of desire to compete in like team sports and stuff. And one of my jiu-jitsu coaches early on, his name was Chuck. His name is Chuck. He's not dead, but not far from it. He's such a healthy guy. But I remember one of the most important things that I learned was from him is just how to push myself through pain, and push myself to explode out of situations, which wasn't something that I was accustomed to doing unless I was like really angry, right? It just wasn't it wasn't something that I associated with anything other than just explosive bouts of anger as a teenager, right? But doing jujitsu, it's like, no, you need to harness that sometimes in your life. You need to harness that explosiveness, and then on the other hand, I like to bowl, or like for somebody else, it might be golf. That's the kind of sport where your emotions are actually your enemy, right? Explosiveness doesn't really help. I mean, there's like a lot of dynamic energy that needs to be focused in the right place for a nice drive in golf or something like that. But it's a pretty well known thing in golf that like you get angry, you get upset, and you're just going to end up playing worse, right? So what is it that I'm talking about? Like those two sports kind of train and channel two different kinds of emotional responses that every man really should learn how to use. You need to learn how to properly channel that explosive energy, because there's going to be times when you may need to fight or flee. There's going to be times when you're going to have to meet a challenge that's going to require that kind of thing. And in real life, that's usually pretty rare. We're talking about a pretty extreme situation when you might need that kind of response. But if you don't have it, you're going to be in real trouble. And the other, those sports like bowling, golf, I don't know, like darts, pool, like things like that, really train you to control and level out your emotions. So, as an example, while I'm bowling, if I get a strike or I get a few strikes in a row, and I'm getting excited and I'm getting really really happy about it, right? Imagine that it's like I'm climbing this peak, right? And I call it like a mountaintop experience, right? Mountaintop experience. You're climbing up and you're way up high. Your emotions are high, like at the top of that roller coaster. But like almost in anything in life, gravity is reality, right? So what happens when you're way up high on that mountaintop? You're way up high on that roller coaster. You're gonna have to come down at some point, right? And certain people might call that like that's the kind of the description for like bipolar disorder, things like that. That you get people who get like really high highs and then they have really low lows, right? Now, we all have lows, right? Just due to circumstance and things, like we get bad news, things aren't working out for us, or whatever it might be, and we can get down, right? And we don't usually have a lot of control over when that happens to us, right? But one thing we do have more control over is how we're going to react when those highs come, right? How am I going to react when something really goes my way? Am I going to uh, blow up? Am I going to celebrate? Am I going to just if I go to a party where I'm having a good time, am I going to raise the stakes to like 100? Am I just going to go all out and just act a complete fool because I'm having such a good time? Or am I going to clip that mountain off? Am I going to know where my limits are? Am I going to know, hey, I'm getting excited. I need to bring my emotions down. Now, I'm not talking about being a Vulcan, right, from Star Trek. Vulcans like prize themselves on not having any emotions at all, and that's not what I mean. What I mean is the control of our emotions. Now, I think for years the world's been telling men, you guys need to emote more. Like you almost need to be more emotional. I'm kind of in a way promoting the opposite, right? I'm promoting the idea that because you do have strong emotions as a man, you need to learn how to control them in a way that you're not splattering them all over everything and everybody, right? You don't want to be that atypical dude punching holes in the walls and kicking doors in and stuff like that. I'm saying that because that's been me, at times. I've done those same things when I was, a young guy, like newly married and everything like that, and just having a family. Like things are just frustrating, right? And I've seen how my anger can get out of control, and I've seen how um, the destruction that it ends up causing to myself and my relationships. So so what's the point here, right? You're eventually going to get married. You might think like that's so far off, it's so far fetched, and um, I don't know how else to explain it to you, but the vast majority of people end up married. Okay, you're probably going to be a father at some point. Okay, and those are going to be the two most important relationships in your life. Not your friends, not the knuckleheads that you hang out with now, not your work relationships. not your boss, not the goofballs you play with online. Your wife and your children are going to be the two most important things and the two most important relationships that you have. And the propensity for us is that we end up doing the most damage to those two relationships that mean the most to us, and that we've been put in a position to oversee, right? So we are in a position as a head of our families, okay? And you might not be thinking about that right now. You're not thinking about the fact that that's going to be your responsibility. But if you're a Christian, you're a young guy, and you're planning, and you're thinking someday you're going to get married. Trust me, you're going to get married. You're going to get married, and you're going to have kids. Okay, we'll just ignore those blessed celibate people that have been blessed with singleness. The vast majority of people do not have that gift, right? Most people, as evidenced by the roughly 8 billion people that there are on this planet, and the number keeps increasing, most people end up getting married and having children, okay? And you've got to start preparing yourself for that. And one thing that you can do to start preparing yourself is getting a hold of your emotions. Gird your loins, okay? Start practicing clipping off those highs, okay? Don't chase those crazy euphoric moments, all right? And when you have successes, you're playing sports or something like that, think about those guys that just they exemplify this calm under pressure. Okay, if you want to idolize somebody as an athlete, idolize guys like that. Look at guys like that. How do they control their emotions and ride through the storm, or be even keeled? Do you know what that means? Like the keel of a ship is like the underneath of the ship. And you imagine somebody that's even keeled is like a ship that's just steady through the storm the whole time. They're just straight as an arrow through choppy waters. And you're going to have to be that guy for your family, for your wife, for your children, because this family stuff is hard. You're going to run into things that are very tough. You have no idea the challenges that you're going to end up facing, death and sickness and all these things. You don't have control over any of that stuff any more than you have any control over the weather. Things are going to be coming at you left and right, but you want to be even keeled. You want to learn how to stay the course. You want to learn how to do that for your wife and children, because children clearly don't have as much control over themselves as adults do. And even your wife, she has different emotions than you do, and reacts emotionally in ways that you don't. Okay, you have different tools at your disposal. Not that women can't control themselves, or that they can't also learn to master their emotions, but it's a far easier task for you to do, and you have more tools, like physical internal tools at your disposal to deal with those things. So don't look at those guys that are flipping out and doing cartwheels and making a big show of themselves, when they have great success at sports or whatever it is. Admire those guys that really have it together, that are really, that calm under pressure type of individual. So I hope this might have been a little helpful to you. This is the first time I've done this by myself, trying something new, but hopefully I'll get somebody else in here soon and record like a 3-hour epic. Wouldn't that be fun? So, all right, guys, I'll let you go. And next time we'll talk about something different. Peace out, everybody.